Well, good morning. We're here for our weekly Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, July 31st, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street. And as always, we like to start our board sessions with a Pledge of Allegiance, so if you will join us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, sorry. Smack you one. Well, it's a good Wednesday morning, huh? It's another 80-degree day out there. We have, under public comment, David Beam is here to speak to us. David, if you would like to come up over to the side, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm an advocate for special needs population in Salem area, and I'd like to see this cigarette tax, a little bit more money for services, for mental health services for the county. So I think the commissioners need to approve this for this year. Then next year we can approve it again. I'd just like to see the county will approve it, that much money for this year. Then we can raise more, a little bit more money every year, every first year. So I like to see it done. No, I like to see it done. For disability people do smoke, and I'd like to see this done. Then we can have more services there for the county,
Okay.
for mental health.
Well, thank you, David. I think the legislature just raised the tobacco tax, didn't they, this last
You're going to
session?
vote on it.
Huh?
There'll be a vote if I have it right.
For us? It's a local vote.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, it hasn't come before us yet, but when it does, we'll certainly give that consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for all you do, David.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have anybody else signed up for public comment this morning. And if we want to go into the consent calendar, I believe it's your turn.
It's me, and the words look easy, so I think I can give it a go. Chair Cameron, I'd like to make a motion to approve our consent calendar this morning. On it, under Business Services, approve Amendment Number 2 to the contract for services with Garten Services to add $53,000 for a total of $198,000 for general grounds maintenance at Marion County campuses, including the Marion County Public Safety Building and Marion County Dog Shelter, and that's through August 1st, 2020. Community Service, approve an order appointing Sheriff Joe Cass to the Marion County Children and Families Commission with a term ending January 31st, 2021. Health and Human Services, approve Amendment 19 to the Intergovernmental Agreement with Oregon Health Authority and add $61,019 for a total of $551,641 for the Tobacco Prevention and Education Program. Public Works, schedule the final consideration to adopt an ordinance granting a zone change case 19004 Larry and Noreen Chamberlain, trustees of the Chamberlain Family Trust, for August 7th, 2019. Approve a purchase order with Suburban Chevrolet in the amount of $148,993.26 for the purchase of 7 sedans and 1 light-duty truck as part of the annual scheduled light-duty replacement plan for Marion County Consolidated Fleet Management. And the Treasurer's Office, approve an order to add $150 to increase the change fund at the Marion County Public Works Environmental Services North Marion Recycling and Transfer Station to $800.
And I'll second the motion.
We have motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. First action is under Health and Human Services to consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between Marion County and Pacific Source Community Solutions, documenting the parties' understanding and expectations with regard to the contract to serve the region's coordinated care organization. And Carrie is here to present this to us. We haven't heard anything about this lately.
I
Welcome.
appreciate the humor this morning. Good morning. My name's Carrie Muller, and I'm the administrator for Marion County Health and Human Services. And for your consideration today is, yes, this memorandum of understanding between Marion County and Pacific Source Community Solutions, the one of the 15 current CCOs under consideration for the CCO 2.0. Those contracts are scheduled to begin in January of 2020. I thought if you would, that I would just take a few minutes to give some background around this MOU and really what's happening in Oregon, in our community regarding Oregon Health Plan. So today, currently there are 104,000 enrolled Medicaid members in Marion and Polk counties, currently served with our CCO of Willamette Valley Community Health. Oregon Health Plan funding through the CCO supports a significant portion of our behavioral health, public health, and safety net services that we provide through the Health and Human Services Department. It is Marion County and the CCO's shared responsibility to ensure that individuals have access to health care. So as you think about this MOU, I'd like you to keep that in mind and regarding our joint mutual responsibility to ensure this community has access to health care. Health care in this context includes prevention, health promotion, access to effective health care, which includes medical and clinical services, mental health care, addiction services, and dental services. Marion County and the expressed intention of coordinated care is for a healthier community. So as I've said, the health plan is responsible for assisting in our funding. It supports approximately about 25% of our current Health and Human Services budget. So on July 9th, Oregon Health Authority announced the CCO contract awards, and Pacific Source Community Solutions was selected as the coordinated care organization to serve the members, Medicaid members in Marion and Polk counties. OHA, Oregon Health Authority, has conducted a readiness review to determine Pacific Source's ability and capacity to fulfill the contract requirements of the CCO. So this MOU that Pacific Source is seeking today is a required component of the readiness review. In addition, and as a required component of the readiness review, it is anticipated that we'll bring before you a contract for our provision of services, our direct services that we provide as a provider in this community, and that will be forthcoming. So, for your consideration, the express purposes of this memorandum understanding is to document the commitment between Pacific Source and Marion County as the local health authority, mental health and public health authority to work together to support and improve the community's health through a shared health system planning, health promotion activities, and the provision of clinical services. And I think that's really important. Again, I'm trying to highlight your role as the board of the local mental health authority and the local public health authority in relationship to the coordinated care organization to ensure together we have the services to support the health of our community. The CCO is responsible solely for the Medicaid lives. We, as the local health authority and the community mental health program, are responsible for the entire population of this community. And so it's a critical part and an important part. 140,000 lives is a third of our population, but you as the local health authority have responsibility for the whole population. So I thought it was important to remind our listeners and for your consideration today, and how, as it relates to this memorandum of understanding, you and as my delegate, as your delegate, I are responsible to determine the local health services in this community. So again, think about the coordinated care organization and your role, and together we should determine the needs for local health services, develop a comprehensive plan that is responsive to the mental health needs of individuals in this community. The local county health authority operates the community mental health program, where we provide an array of mental health, addiction, and public health services. And then as the public health authority, we develop public health policies and goals for Health and Human Services in collaboration with myself and you. We adopt ordinances, you adopt ordinances and rules necessary for Health and Human Services to administer public law and civil penalties for their violations. You review and make recommendations for the modernization of the public health system, and we monitor the progress of Health and Human Services in meeting our statewide public health goals. So the MOU specifically talks about your relationship as the local health authority and the coordinated care organization, and the agreement seeks to establish a collaborative working relationship between our entities, facilitate an advantageous use of the public health system, ensure ongoing planning for the healthcare system, and enhance the full continuum of healthcare services. It also seeks to continue to reach the goal of triple aim, which works towards improving members' experience, achieves better health outcomes, achieves cost containment, and in this next year, this next contract, it focuses on the retention of a qualified workforce, which is a specific focus in this next planning process. And together that we develop a system of publicly funded health, mental health, and addiction services. So I thought that background was particularly important as you consider this memorandum of understanding. And please know that there was a robust conversation between Marion County and Pacific Source regarding this memorandum of understanding. So it's in front of you today for your consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.
I do. Thanks, Carrie. 104,000 in Marion County?
Excuse me?
Did you say 104,000?
Between Marion and Polk counties.
Oh, between the two counties.
Yeah, we're about 80% of that population.
Okay,
so.
that's what I just wanted to clarify. And then under goals of the plan, number 3, resources, it says maximize resources for CCO enrollees and increase utilization of funds from sources other than state general fund and Medicaid payments. Where would those sources come from?
So we get a, sorry, let me see where you're at so I can.
It's on page 2 of 8 on the memorandum of understanding.
Number 3.
Yes.
Oh, maximize resources for CCO enrollees to increase utilization of funds from services from sources other than state general fund and Medicaid. So this is the contribution by our full funding stream. So we have individuals who pay a portion of their services. We have federal dollars that come in as well. So they're saying here that they want to ensure the CCO isn't fully, that we have shared responsibility for the funding of these services.
Okay. Well, that'd be interesting to see how that looks. And then under 4, the goals, coordinate services among criminal and juvenile justice systems, adult and juvenile correction systems, child welfare schools. Would there be, in here, should they be a member of our Public Safety Coordinating Council based on that goal? Somebody from Pacific Source that's the CCO?
I certainly think that the better representation we have of the whole community, the better our work will be at the Public Safety Council.
Can you keep that in mind as you
Absolutely.
go forth with the contract, that they're sitting at the table under the public safety place, since that's a goal? And then I see housing there, and obviously, Commissioner, you might want to talk about that. But those are the ones that I had. I want to make sure that.
And I'll just add, with regard to the Public Safety Council and the work with the criminal justice system, juvenile justice as a system of care, we as the Community Mental Health Program are responsible to help individuals transition from institutions, including our criminal justice system and our hospitals. And at the point of time where they return to our community, many of them will be members of the CCO. So this is where that shared responsibility as a Community Mental Health Program and the CCO really come together, and it's to achieve that goal of helping people transition back into the community and have health services to help them achieve that. So
yeah, I appreciate that, because I know right now there's not that link between that Public Safety Coordinating Council and the current CCO. They're not sitting on our side. We sit on their side,
yes.
But so we can keep that in mind as we move forward. Commissioner, do you have?
Well, I've been trying to, it's kind of off subject to MOU, but we certainly have been getting inundated with emails from providers unsure of what's happening, not happy about it. I had a couple little questions, but maybe this one, you talked about robust, that hints at some type of negotiation. So what were key points that you were defending?
So, as I said, this MOU as well as a provider services contract are an obligation of the CCO. So as Pacific Source and the other coordinated care organization that put in an application, Marion Polk, CCO, their obligation was to ensure that this memorandum of understanding is in place, which ensures that we'll work collaboratively to achieve these goals. And this is an 8-page document, this example that you're seeing here. And it really, there's a lot of detail in here, and I think the spirit of which I hope this is received is around that sense of cooperation, because neither of us can achieve our intended goals without the other. I think it's critically important that we do that. So, and it's a new entity, so it's new for Pacific Source in our community, so establishing a relationship with them to understand sort of to have some trust, to develop that relationship so where we can get to the point where we can commit to our decisions based on this experience of trust and these shared goals. So I will tell you, they were in this community probably more than a half a dozen times in advance of this to try to understand the nuances of this. Commissioner Willis sets on their health council as an early invitation to engage with us, the county and the community. Jane, our legal counsel, was involved in this review as well. So, Commissioner, there were many points in this that were for consideration. Probably almost every aspect of this has been reviewed and considered. So, but really it's how to ensure that we're both accountable to the level that we need to be accountable and are working towards the same goal. But really, until we have more of an experience with them, I think much of this is being held in sort of reserve while we work to develop that relationship.
And there was one other thing in the write-up just struck me as a little bit funny. It says Oregon Health Authority announced the award winners, and now they're doing a readiness review to determine the ability and capacity. Somehow that seems wrong.
Yeah, and it's a pretty robust review. So in addition to this memorandum of understanding, which is required as part of that, the state will come and evaluate each of the coordinated care organizations, 15 of them now, in terms of their ability to be ready by January 1st to implement the contract. So that's really what the readiness review is.
But they could find out that they're not ready, and therefore you need to look at somebody else, and so it isn't settled then, is it?
Right. The announcement that happened on July 9 was to say they've been, the intention is to award these contracts.
Okay.
And now it's between now and maybe as far out as September 15. It's been a range of dates where they've told the CCOs that they would come and do this readiness review. The CCO is interested, I should say, in having this done as early as possible. They said they could come out by August 1st. All the way through September 15 to do these. So the next component in their readiness review is to ensure that they have enough contracts in place to serve the Medicaid members. So besides this memorandum of understanding specific to the local health authority, our role here, the other providers aren't doing the memorandum of understanding, again, because of our responsibility to ensure the community has health services. The provider contract, the provision of behavioral health services, of drug treatment services, of public health services, is different than this memorandum of understanding, and those will be forthcoming. Those are the two key components for the CCOs in this next readiness review period, is to show they have an adequate provider panel and to ensure that there's an agreement between the local health authority around this work.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie, I just have a couple comments I want to put on the record. This isn't about this particular deal, but we have been getting a lot of letters, but I've been saving most of them into a folder, and I just counted 21 letters 10 of them were from the same person. And then I want to make a comment about this letter. I don't want to get into this food fight, but this one's titled Death of a Community in the CCO. And this person makes a comment in here. The Oregon Health Corps basically disparaged the Marion Polk Coordinated Care application to serve Marion Polk patients while ignoring almost 2 decades of experience and success. And I want on the record that those 2 decades of success, it hasn't been 2 decades. We've only had a CCO since
2012.
Well, I was in the legislature in 2011 when we passed the CCO with Governor Kitzhaber. So it's been, 1 decade basically at the most. And that CCO was not this CCO that
That's
these people
correct.
are talking about. That CCO was a much broader community CCO. So, I guess I better be careful, Sam.
No,
stop
I haven't
me.
heard anything yet.
I'm
Jane's the one you referred to.
What? No, Sam, you get me out of trouble. Well, maybe you actually encourage me to get in trouble. I don't know. But I read these letters and I'm going, these aren't the facts. And the people, hopefully somebody's listening that's writing these letters, and then the last thing this says is that, basically this coordinated care is going to be as good as Eugene and Portland TV stations are as covering the local news. The mistake made by OHA needs to be challenged. We don't even know they've made a mistake yet.
So there's a lot to unpack in there. I'll just say a couple things if I could. In the late 90s, Oregon moved to managed care. And in the late 90s and through the 2000s, this community provided Medicaid managed care services to Oregon health plan population. And so for 2 decades, we've been providing managed care. Many of those providers, including the Health and Human Services Department, have been a provider of service in a managed care setting. The collective group of medical physicians and some of the top administrators in the existing CCO and those community agencies have been providing services in this community in that way.
Okay.
The CCO was established in 2012. And this year, the CCO, 3 of the current members announced that they would be submitting an independent application for this book of business for the new CCO 2.0. So the existing CCO will cease in December of this year. They did not apply for a bid for the CCO this time because...
But some wanted to.
But some wanted to,
Yeah.
but in part because of these 3 organizations decided to go out on their own for that bid. We too have been engaged in a full conversation with Marion Polk CCO, and up until the announcement of the award, we have been treating both of these CCOs collaboratively and equally in terms of engaging with them in this process. I do understand that they have appealed the OHA's decision, and I also understand that a decision will be forthcoming on whether they'll have any success in that appeal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're getting poked here.
Yep. It's a big
and
change.
I know what happens to me when I get poked like that.
I think it's also important to point out that this, from the beginning, was OHA's decision.
Right.
They made their decision, and this was never our decision to make. And presumably OHA did their homework when they made that decision, and they did it based on all the evidence available to them. So.
There is a full report, a summary and a full report of the scoring and the process that they went through to determine. So 4 of our existing CCOs in the state actually got a 1-year contract to do some remediation. 2 were not selected, 2 existing organizations were not selected, and then there was expansion of Pacific Source and Trillium as the 2 CCOs that are expanding their footprint.
Okay. Thank you. I think we better pay attention to really important things like dog licenses and those kinds of things too. Really appreciate that. So we're going to approve a letter of memorandum of understanding.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just suggest a technical fix. I ran this by Jane. On page 4, paragraph G, there's a clinical services contract in public health. And the intent, and this is a meeting that we had, was that it would list some services that the county may provide, but is not required to provide.
Where are we now? Page what?
Page 4, paragraph G. But the last sentence of the paragraph says PCS shall use its best efforts to execute a mutually agreeable contract that includes services in the following categories. And some of those services we don't provide, like school-based clinic services. So I'm going to suggest in my motion that we change that includes to may include services in the following categories. And this language was updated just yesterday, and so that's why we weren't able to get it in there prior to board session today.
So the change is under...
Page 4, paragraph
that
G.
includes services that may include services.
May include services. Do you understand that, Jane?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that, and I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, including the change to may include services on page 4, paragraph G, the second to last line. Okay?
That's correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Carrie. Okay, the next item we have up is Juvenile Department to consider approval of the intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Youth Authority for incoming funds in the amount of $1,884,337 for basic and diversion services provided by the Marion County Juvenile Department through June 30th, 2021. And Troy is here with a special guest.
Special guest. Good morning. For the record, my name is Troy Gregg. I'm the Marion County Juvenile Director, and with me today is Melanie Prentice, who's our Program Supervisor for the Guaranteed Attendance Program, the GAP program. And we are here today for your consideration of the approval, as mentioned, of the intergovernmental agreement with Youth Authority. This is one of our 2 pass-through dollars that come through us. Last week we approved the ODE contract, and this one in the amount of $1,884,337 is for basic and diversion, which funds between this and the BRS, which is Behavior Rehabilitation Services programming that we do, about 70% of the GAP program overall. The remainder is general fund dollars. And so I asked Melanie to come with me today to describe for you a little bit and get you a little bit more detail on the Guaranteed Attendance Program, what it is that they do, and then of course to answer any questions that you may have about this. Melanie? Yep.
Sorry, I'm a newbie. Good morning. So the GAP program is a 22-bed voluntary shelter program located at Marion County Juvenile Department. We house juveniles that are under the jurisdiction of the Marion County Court between the ages of 12 and 17. It's a unique program in that it's right there on campus and that it is a alternative to detention or to Oregon Youth Authority. So we are diverting youth from going further into the system. When we're able to do that, we typically see about 90 to 100 juveniles during the course of a year. They come into the program for 90 days, and again, they are there voluntarily, so they're agreeing to go. A lot of times it's to get out of detention, but nonetheless, not all kids are appropriate to be sitting in detention for a very long period of time. So during that time, they continue to remain in the community. Wherever they go to school, when they live at home, they continue to go to school at those places. So whether that's South Salem or North or whatever, they continue to do that. They continue to participate in our local drug and alcohol services, so they can continue to go to Marion County Drug and Alcohol or Bridgeway. If they're involved in counseling, they would continue those services as well. And they're immediately able to start going home after their first week at GAP. So they're not only being provided stable environment where they're learning skills, they're able to practice those skills in real time by returning home to their families every weekend and being able to work on the issues that they're having at home. That's continuing to keep them within our system. So they have a very structured program. They mostly return every day on time and stay and participate. We provide them with 6 hours of groups each week focusing on emotion regulation, distress tolerance, just various things. We do a lot of role playing. We role play situations that they might run into while they're at home or at school and practice more appropriate ways to react in those situations. We provide an hour of one-on-one skills training with their case managers each week to really focus on their own individual needs, and the families can participate in that as well. We provide 2 outings each week. So just a lot of structured supervision while they're in our program. And they stay there for that 90-day time. So there's no cost to the parent for the juvenile to be there. All of the juveniles that are in our program are enrolled in the Oregon Health Plan, so they have insurance. They're able to have their medical needs met. So again, it's just a very unique program right here in the community that offers beds and some stability and structure to juveniles that need to kind of focus on those criminogenic factors and being able to successfully reintegrate back into the community.
Are there any questions about either the GAP program or these dollars in particular?
I do.
I can hear it. You may.
Do you want to guess what I'm going to ask?
No.
Because I don't know why people, after all these years, haven't just figured out. Maybe they want me to have a question, because I'm going to ask, so is this up or down from previous amounts of dollars? Because it gives such a gauge of whether it's in favor or it's being phased out or what. So how is this funding in terms of normal?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. So these are the, so it's up. And so we basically got a cost of living for this one, basically. So there's a big pot of money that they give to all the counties. Sure. It's divided up based on percentage-wise with that. And so the dollars have been going up. It is one of those things, like anything with state budget, as they kind of argue, that kind of either gets on the chopping block for some of the reduction pieces that go through. But it's been always supported. I can't remember in recent history when the dollars weren't provided to the counties. It's been a long time, and there's usually certainly a lot of interactions with the legislature during this time frame to talk about the importance of these dollars, because without these dollars, then the GAP program would certainly suffer and be impacted, and we wouldn't have the services to provide for kids, which would then mean, and so that's the key thing I think that Melanie's talking about. The GAP program is meant to deter kids from going further into the system. We as the Marion County Juvenile Department don't have contracts with residential programs or treatment programs out there. And so if a kid isn't able to stay at home instead of being out on the streets, we have the GAP program for that opportunity. And if we don't have the GAP program and didn't have the GAP program, then kids would end up going into OYA placement, costing the state tax dollars a lot of money. And as Melanie mentioned, once they go into state custody, then the parents start getting child support payments on top of them, whereas with the GAP program, like I said, it doesn't cost parents anything. So this is really a deterrent to be able to do that. But again, to go back to your question, the dollars are going up with the cost of living increases every 2 years as they do the biennium at this point in time. And it is one thing that the Juvenile Directors Association is strong about and strong to continue about. And the state has been very supportive of being able to do so, as well as Oregon Youth Authority.
Thank you. Well, it does say to me that they can consider it valuable. They're not only going to fund it, they're going to keep it healthy.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, I'm new. So they stay for 90 days, is that right?
Typically 90 days is the period of time they would stay. Sometimes if they're waiting for a placement somewhere else and they've just come to not wait in detention, so maybe they've been designated to go to a residential placement, but it's not open for 30 days, then they could come to GAP for just that 30-day time period, but we would know that ahead of time. And of course they could run.
Do they go home on the weekends, or
yes.
they're there?
Yes, they go home typically Friday at 4 through Sunday at 4, and they can also have family time during the week depending on what level they're on.
Oh, great. Okay. And is it like dorm style?
Yes.
Okay.
We have 2 buildings. One building houses our female youth, and the other building houses our male youth, and it's dormitory style.
And what's your census at any given time? Do you have like an average census?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
How many folks usually are in the GAP program at any given time?
So this year we've been between 20 to 22, so we've been pretty full this year, which is nice, but I don't know if that's a good sign for the juvenile system.
Well, it's better than being in OIA, right?
Correct.
It is, and like I said, it's also a resource for kids that are struggling at home, because those kids could end up being out on the streets, because that can potentially happen a lot. And not every kid that we have necessarily has a strong family resource to go back to. That's our work, to try to build those those family units back up together.
Sounds like a great program.
Just, I thought you were going to say something about how the weed eater work. Troy, when I went out and actually weed eated with these kids last year, I thought I'd get to watch, but no, they gave me a weed eater and eye protection and said, get to work. Not all of them are staying with you, right, that are working in the GAP program? Some would just come for the day, right? It's just different levels?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is our alternative programs, which is a separate program. They run Matrix and the Fresh Start Market. Our GAP youth can work in those programs, and in fact, we have a good percentage of juveniles that do work in that program during the school year if they're not able to attend school, and especially if they owe restitution.
Yeah, okay. So I know that there's a crossover there. That's what.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Okay, good. All right. And it was probably crooked, just like the stripes I laid down.
But I didn't have to ask.
Yeah.
All right, Chair Cameron, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Youth Authority for incoming funds in the amount of $1,884,337 for basic and diversion services provided by Marion County Juvenile Department through June 30th, 2021.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Thank you very much for the work you do. All right, under Public Works, our next item, consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the 2019 Fund Exchange Agreement in the amount of $822,500 to reimburse the cost of 2018 Payment Resurfacing Program. And Ryan is here. Oh, we always have presentations from Public Works, so they're right in front of us.
That's right. Good morning, Brian Nicholas, Public Works Director.
And Ryan Crother, Marion County Capital Project Manager.
So this is an agreement that comes to the board every year, so you've seen this one before, but it's been a while since we've talked about fund exchange, so I figured it'd be a good opportunity to just touch on it for a couple of minutes for folks who haven't seen the fund exchange program and the federal surface transportation program that is the origin of these funds.
That's code for me.
Yeah.
Well, and folks out on that are watching, this is something that it's interesting to see how funding works. So this agreement basically has two components. One is the source of the funding, and then how the funding gets into our hands. So we're going to talk about that. First, Federal Surface Transportation Program. That is one of the main programs that Federal Highway Administration uses to get federal funds into the hands of state and local governments throughout the country. So in the surface, the STP program, Oregon's allotment of funds goes to the states and gets divvied up. A large percentage goes to ODOT to fund their programs, and the rest goes into all kinds of different local programs. A slice of those funds, a fixed percentage of those funds, goes into ODOT's local bridge program, which we access to do some of our bridge projects. Some of it goes to our local MPO SCATs and then gets distributed to SCATs members to do capital projects. And then there's a nice little slice that goes directly to cities and counties. So there's an allocation that goes into an account that ODOT maintains on our behalf. And those are funds that they're federal funds, and they sit in this account until we draw upon them. So the difference between that STP account, that Surface Transportation Program account, that's in our name, sitting in a account at ODOT, and say the funds that come through the ODOT local bridge program, is we have to compete for those funds that are in those other programs. The nice thing about this STP allocation that goes directly to us is it's our discretionary fund. We get to decide what we do with it. We're not competing against others. Those are our dollars to apply to our road network based on our priorities and decisions. However, they are still federal funds, so when we spend those dollars, there are federal strings attached. We have to comply with all the federal programs for clearing, NEPA, environmental, cultural, historic resources, social justice, American with Disabilities Acts. All of those requirements have to be met when you're doing a federal aid project. But those funds are sitting there ready for us to use. Another nice thing about that account is Well, we get somewhere between about 850 to maybe 1.2 million or so. It's a fixed percentage of the STP program allocation, but because the dollars in the STP program can change with each biennium, our actual dollar amount can change quite a bit. Yeah, typically somewhere between about $850,000 to maybe $1.2 million goes into that account every year. And we tend to draw upon that account using this fund exchange program that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Great, we have discretion over those funds. It's our decision how we spend those dollars, but they are federal funds and they have some federal strings attached. The second part of the agreement, or the agreement that, that we're using to access those dollars, is actually called a fund exchange agreement, and that's the second bullet on the slide here. So ODOT has a program called a fund exchange program where they will swap, for agencies like ours, they will swap the federal dollars for state dollars. They charge a 6% fee. So they will give us 94 cents on the dollar in state funds to swap out those federal funds. And there's a reason why they charge that fee. There is some administrative burden in maintaining that program, but by and large what they're doing is they are agreeing to accept sort of the burden of that extra process you do to expend federal funds, right? So it actually is a really good value. That 6% is a pretty good value when we get to say, okay, we're gonna divest ourselves of the federal strings that are attached with those dollars. And what it does is it really, you know, the STP program allocation goes directly to us. It's our discretionary dollars. We have quite a bit of flexibility. We'll now take the federal strings off, and now it's really flexible. So we can use those funds to as match dollars on a federal aid project. So some counties that don't have the financial resources to provide the local match on a federal aid project, they might do this. They might take their STP dollars, change them to state dollars, and then use those state dollars as the local match on a federal aid project. And in that way, they could get a federal aid project completed without any draw on their local county tax base, right? So it's a pretty good program. All of the counties and cities are fans of the ODOT Fund Exchange program. So how do we use this? We do a fund exchange agreement with ODOT every year, and we do that because we do a lot of our own county-funded projects, and we don't follow the federal process. But we can use, the dollars that we spend on those local projects, we can submit to ODOT, get reimbursed for them, and sort of refill our piggy bank for the next fiscal year. And we can use those dollars just like any other local dollars without the federal strings attached. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So Ryan's going to give you a little update on the projects that we completed last year. So what we do is we submit an invoice to ODOT. Once the agreement is in place, we submit an invoice to ODOT saying here are the projects that we completed that are eligible, and this is just a funding mechanism to get reimbursed for those dollars. The dollars come into a receivables account, and then they reflect on our working net capital in our next budget cycle. So the dollars we receive this time of year, it'll be in our budget plan for next fiscal year, and we'll spend the dollars there.
All right, as Brian said, this is a reimbursement, so it's projects that were completed in 2018, and we primarily use this for resurfacing projects. The projects that we have included in this agreement are Mount Angel Jervis Road Northeast, where we paid 4.3 miles of roadway, Sunnyview Road Northeast, which was 3.3 miles, and Mill Creek Road Southeast, which was 2.3 miles. As you can see, the dollar values of those projects are well above what we are asking for in reimbursement, but this will provide partial reimbursement for those projects. This year we're asking for an exchange of $875,000 in federal funds for $822,500 in state funds to reimburse the projects that we did in 2018.
Any questions?
It's cool. Good job.
So this is something you'll continue to see year after year. It's a nice way, it's a real convenient way to access those federal funds and use them on our local roads.
And it looks like we're getting reimbursed for projects we've already done. Is that how we do it here?
That is, yes. We could, if we had a federal aid project, we could take these, and we didn't have, let's say we had a federal aid project and we wanted to make the project bigger, wanted to extend it, we could take these dollars, federal aid dollars, and tie them in another agreement. So there's other ways of using these federal dollars, but this really is the most convenient way. So, yeah, the agreement basically makes that $822,000 available for those specific projects. So, yeah.
And is that about how much, you said we have an STP fund, is that right?
Yes.
Is that the amount that we get every year is roughly 800?
Yeah, that's between about $850 to $1.2 million typically per year. Right now, our STP, our account has about $1.8 million in it or so. So we like to have a working balance of around $1 million as a rainy day fund in case we have something critical that comes up. This is a source of revenue that we can use to pay for it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the 2019 fund exchange agreement in the amount of $822,500 to reimburse the cost of the 2018 pavement resurfacing program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Next up is under the Sheriff's Office, consider approval of contract for services with Keefe Commissary Network LLC for incoming funds in the amount of $142,214 to provide inmate commissary and trust fund services for the Marion County Jail through June 30th, 2024. And looks like Commander Larson is here. Tad,
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. For the record, my name is Tad Larson. I'm the jail commander for the Sheriff's Office. First item before you is going to be the consideration of a new contract. It's actually a renewal with the same vendor for the Keefe Commissary Network. Not only do they handle our commissary issues within the jail and the transition center, they also manage the inmate trust fund. So as folks are being lodged and released, they're managing the accounting process for those funds as people come in and out. You see the revenue there, and we're happy with the service that they provided. They were one of a couple of vendors that showed up for the request for proposal process, but they were the only vendor that proposed on it. We're very fortunate they plan to upgrade some of the hardware and network infrastructures, like in our transition center, making sure that the commissary machines have greater security devices so that the inmates aren't defeating those and stealing the candy and treats out of the commissary machine. So we're happy that they heard us on the request for proposal tour, and they've put some dollars to reinvest back in the buildings.
Okay, any questions?
Stealing candy, huh? Sounds like something we might do.
Yeah, but John's not here anymore, so I have to go to Jan's office to find M&M peanuts. All right.
I did have one, if I could. Just so, what are the trust fund services about? So, yeah, where do the monies come from? How much do they typically, if they're individually accounted for, and then how is that given back to the released person?
So when folks are released, we have the option of a debit card or a check. For folks that are being transported to another facility or institution, most of those receiving agencies prefer a check. And for those being released to the streets, the most common method is the debit card.
So where's the source of this money to begin with? They purchase it on their own with dollars they have? What?
Typically, it's money that they come in with at the time of arrest, or money that's put on their individual account from loved ones once they're locked up.
Okay. And how much is it typically that they're putting into their accounts? $5, $10, $100, what?
As far as, I don't have an average on what somebody comes in with, but typical contributions that we see from loved ones at our kiosks in the lobbies are typically $40 to $100, depending on how long they anticipate their loved one staying there.
All right. Hope you'll take care of me. I'd like to buy a Coke. Goodness. All right. Chair Cameron. I'd make a motion, we do approve the contract for services with Keefe Commissary Network for incoming funds, the amount of $142,214 to provide inmate commissary and trust fund services for the Marion County Jail through June 30th, 2024.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Next one up, you're still here, Commander, right? Consider approval of contract for services with the Salem Health Hospital and clinics in the amount of $500,000 to provide medical services for inmates lodged at the Marion County Jail from August 1st, 2019 to July 31st, 2022.
So as you know, medical costs are rising. The $500,000 is a placeholder for the next 3 years. Last year was a rather expensive year. We had some acute level care for folks that were in custody and were not eligible for release or transfer. And they also did not meet the threshold criteria for the Oregon Health Plan once they were admitted to the hospital. Retired Sheriff Myers connected myself and another jail commander from Clackamas County with a representative at the Oregon Health Authority. And so we're working on a waiver process for folks that don't meet that threshold that would benefit jails in the rest of the state. So most of our hospital admission costs are managed by the ability to sign them up after the first 24 hours. And a couple of cases drove those costs up. So we're anticipating anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 a year in hospital costs for those that don't stay beyond the 24 hours. And we're hoping to resolve the waiver process with Oregon Health Authority, but that's tied directly to federal dollars, so that might be a lengthy process.
We could put that, I'll make a note, put that on our federal agenda with Barb too.
Be great. I'd be happy to speak with Barb about it if you'd like.
Yeah. So it's currently, I know we changed some legislation 2 or 3 years ago to try to get that time frame down a little bit. So is it 24 hours? So I have to stay, an inmate has to stay there 24 hours, then we can put them back on Medicaid and bill Medicaid for it.
Correct.
So if I go in there for something that, you know, like a, what do you call this? Anyways, I'm just in the emergency room for 5 hours.
Yeah.
We get billed and we pay.
That cost reverts back to the sheriff's office. We do have an agreement with all of our providers that based on the statute that they make a reasonable attempt to bill the individual patient. And then after that process has been exhausted, we pick up the cost.
All right. All right, any questions? Okay.
Just echo what Chair Cameron said. If we can help, let us know.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So, Chair Cameron, I move that we approve the contract for services with Salem Health Hospital and clinics in the amount of $500,000 to provide medical services for inmates lodged at the Marion County Jail from August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thanks, Commander.
Thank you.
And the Commander Sheriff, or what is he?
Commander Sheriff.
Commander
The
Sheriff.
Commander Sheriff.
It's like you never say things twice the same way. Jeff Wood is here. Consider approval of memorandum of understanding with Marion County Health and Human Services in the amount of $477,814 to provide services for the Student Opportunity for Achieving Results, or known as our SOAR program with Chemeketa through June 30th, 2021.
Commander.
I'm going to say Under Sheriff Wood. Thank you for being here. We haven't replaced your commander position yet. Has that been done or announced?
No, sir. So
Okay.
for now, I am still Jeff Wood, Commander Sheriff with the Marion County Sheriff's Office.
All right. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Just in terms of some color and context, SOAR, Student Opportunity for Achieving Results, it is our flagship, I'll call it our flagship reentry program that began in January of 2010. Although you often hear me say things like this program is designed for medium high-risk individuals, I want to be very clear. We divert our probably most likely group of individuals who have demonstrated the highest likelihood to commit future criminal activities to this program. There's good reason for that. Part of the reason is this is a 12-week intensive program. Sometimes you hear me throw out words like, you know, cognitive hours. This is about a 260 cognitive hour program delivered on the Chemeketa Community College campus. As with a lot of things that we do, this is a wonderful collaborative endeavor that we have. Although the Health and Human Services contract, or MOU, is before you today, key partners include also the Sheriff's Office and Chemeketa Community College. Part of the allure of this program is that it is what we call, provide wraparound services for individuals. That includes some housing subsidy, includes access to education, GED, mentors, treatment programming, and then for the graduates, they have access to some of those higher education programs. And really one of the things that is very difficult to explain sometimes is the fact that it's on a community college campus, and this really is a program, it's one of a kind. We are unaware of any other programs similar to this. With that milieu at Chemeketa, they actually behave better than the college students do. We have, over the last 10 years, we've had very few negative interactions with our students because they see that they are being treated as a student. They get student IDs. They have access to the same facilities that the students do, and they respond appropriately. One of the things that we do with this program, you've heard me say the word correctional program checklist. This program is what we call an evidence-based program. It passed the correctional program checklist. It has what we call a very high adherence to evidence-based practices. Again, this wonderful program has, like a lot of our programs, we use money and resources from different funding sources to provide this service. Justice Reinvestment provides some monies for this program. It provides funding for the Chemeketa piece, but this MOU is with Health and Human Services to provide the treatment, the mentoring that is pivotal to this program and success. I'll close with my testimony just in trying to offer some proof of the validity of the program, so to speak. Whether you use the old definition of recidivism being a new felony conviction or you use the new definition of a recidivating event being a new arrest, any new conviction, or any new reincarceration, the graduates of SOAR have a considerably less likelihood of any future activity. If you compare it to just the new arrest criteria, they are 30% less likely to be rearrested. If you look at a new felony conviction, they're 20% less likely than their peers, so to speak, to have that new felony conviction. And they're 10% less likely to be reincarcerated, sentenced to a new sentence, either in the Department of Corrections or the local supervisory authority. And I will say, considering the likelihood of this group, when you look at the probability of those either new arrest, new conviction, or new reincarceration, that's very positive, and that has a direct positive public safety impact within our community. With that, I will close, and of course, I'm available for any questions.
Don't we have an individual working for us right now that went through the SOAR program?
We do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Been there many times for the graduation. It's always a pretty emotional time to see those people go through that and the families and reunite. And yeah, it's great.
It is wonderful, and I will say there are times when I'm not sure if the graduations are more for me or more for the students. They are uplifting and they're inspiring, and it's nice to see people actually celebrating, arguably in some circumstances, the first thing they've successfully completed.
Yeah. Questions?
Is Deb's running it? Is she the one?
She is, yes, Commissioner. Deb Giard, our program coordinator. She is, I believe she's taken over, I'll say, for the last 5 years of this program.
She manages the whole program.
And so we rely on her for this program to be evidence-based. I know I'm probably not giving it enough kudos, but the fact that the program scored as high as it did on the correctional program checklist is it takes a lot of work, and we couldn't have done it without Deb.
She's fabulous, isn't she?
She's okay. I know I'm being recorded right now.
Wherever
so
she is.
I know. She's probably watching this.
Yeah, she'll give the credit to somebody else.
I'm grateful for
her work. She does. Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Chair Cameron, I'd make a motion we approve memorandum of understanding with Marion County and Health and Human Services in the amount of $477,814 to provide services for the SOAR program through June 30th, 2021.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we're good. So we will open, thanks Jeff, we will open under a contract review board, consider approval of an order for the class special procurement exemption to award multiple contracts for victim services providers through June 30th, 2021. And Camber's going to join you, Commander, or Under Sheriff.
There we are.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are before you this morning to request a class special procurement for the, excuse me, I've lost my note here on my page. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is requesting a class special procurement process for victim service providers, specifically Liberty House and the Center for Hope and Safety. The notice was released on ORPN on June 17th, and it closed on June 24th, 2019 without any protests. The total estimated cost for these two contracts is $400,000, and the time period is retroactively from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th of 2021. And I will turn it over to the Commander, Under Sheriff, for some information.
That was very respectful.
Commissioners, again, thank you for your time. As you know, the background with House Bill 3194, there are 4 key components, which include recidivism reduction, enhancing our evidence-based programming, increasing client accountability, and decreasing our prison or our historical prison utilization. One thing that often gets, I don't want to say forgotten, but it doesn't get enough attention is that for any justice reinvestment dollars associated with House Bill 3194, 10% must go to community-based organizations to enhance victim services. When we first started getting these justice reinvestment dollars, I believe it was in 2015, the Public Safety Coordinating Council convened a group of practitioners, which included law enforcement, included the District Attorney's Office, included private nonprofits, and in essence did a gap analysis in terms of what services are needed, what enhancements need to be made at a local level for victims of crime within Marion County. 2 areas that they determined were advocacy for victims of crime, more specifically domestic violence, and providing some of that technical expertise in navigating the criminal justice system. As somebody who's been involved in the criminal justice system for the last 27 years, I'm learning things every single day, and will say it is not an easy system to navigate if you're looking for something like a restraining order against an abuser. And we also, as a group, decided that we needed to enhance treatment services for victims of abuse, neglect, and trauma. The recommendation was to provide these services to both Liberty House and Center for Hope and Safety back in 2015. And I will say this will be, if approved, the 3rd special procurement for these victim services in Marion County. And just to close with some historical context, I will say it's been successful. Liberty House has focused on therapy to deliver evidence-based trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. During the last reporting period, which I believe was the last year, they saw in excess of 306 children, which was a almost 50% increase over the prior reporting period. And in May of 2019, they reached a 3rd-year milestone of over 500 children served, of which 70% were 12 or younger. Regarding the Center for Hope and Safety, this funding had provided funding for an intake coordinator, children's advocate, and bilingual court advocate. And I will say that this is a staggering number. The intake coordinator facilitated meetings with over 8,000 individuals, which has been a 50% increase from the previous year. In all, the advocates have provided 575 protective orders for English-speaking victims of domestic violence, 50 protective orders completed for Spanish-speaking victims, and then an additional 641 victims provided services utilizing these JRI funds. And I will say we are not looking to limit collaboration towards these services, but I will say they are very specific and needed, and would ask for your support of this special procurement.
So part of our justification is to include how this will not encourage favoritism and how this will promote the public interest. And as the undersheriff mentioned, currently there are no other nonprofit victim providers that offer these types of services. Should new providers come about, the sheriff's office would consider them, go through the grant application process to make sure they do comply with the requirements. And this would also allow us to award an additional contract between the next 2 years, should one come available.
Okay. Does this $400,000 include potential supplemental, Jeff? Or we'd have to come back?
I don't think we'd have to come back. I believe, if I remember right, we were looking at about $388,000
Okay.
in regular, and then there was some supplemental too, but it's around the $400,000 that we're looking at.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Both these organizations do great work.
Yes.
I'm grateful for it. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an order for the class special procurement exemption to award multiple contracts for victim services providers through June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Camber. All right. We'll close contract review board. I'll open a public hearing on finance. Public hearing to consider approval of a quitclaim deed for the transfer of tax foreclosed property on a portion of farmland lane to the city of Kaiser. We have presentation this morning. Leanne and Kent are here. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Go right ahead.
So before you this morning is for your consideration, is to transfer formerly foreclosed property.
You pull that
to the city
microphone. Make
of
sure
Kaiser.
you have your microphones close. Yeah.
So the area in green is the area that we're asking the commissioners to transfer to the city of Kaiser. Kaiser has formally requested the transfer in order to complete the street improvements for the area in orange where there's a proposed subdivision that is under review in the county surveyor's office right now.
Okay. We've seen this in a
pretty
management
straightforward.
update, I think, right?
Yeah, I just had one question. So Kaiser gave easements that they didn't own?
No,
None of those are affected or have to be adjusted when this is done?
no, they were private easements granted to, over the area in pink, to the surrounding property owners.
But not over this strip of land?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, only what they were conveyed.
Thought we could hold them up or something.
What do we want from Kaiser?
I don't know. They're always supportive. Yeah, let them have it.
Yeah, all right. I don't think there's too many, it's pretty straightforward. We know all about this, and we can take a motion and
I would.
get it done.
Chair Cameron, I make a motion, we close the public hearing and do approve a quick claim deed for the transfer of the tax foreclosed property on a portion of farmland lane as indicated to the city of Kaiser. Excuse me.
We have a second. I heard it. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right. That's probably the quickest public hearing. I should have noted for the record, we had nobody signed up to testify for the public hearing. So I'll close the public hearing and we'll read the calendar.
All right. Today is Wednesday, July 31st, and we are in board session here in the Senator hearing room. Tomorrow, August 1st at 7 in the morning, we have the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce Public Policy Meeting located at the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, 1110 Commercial Street Northeast in Salem. Thursday, August 1st at 8:30 in the morning, we have a Building Strong Families, Resilient Communities, and Education call to action located at the Kaiser Civic Center, 930 Shamawa Road, Northeast in Salem. On August 1st at 9:30 in the morning, we have the department head elected officials meeting located in the Commissioner's Boardroom on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. Tomorrow, Thursday, August 1st at 11:30 in the morning, we have a Marion County Extension and 4-H Service District meeting located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast here in Salem. At 1 in the afternoon, tomorrow, August 1st, we have an executive session for FOPO bargaining pursuant to ORS 192.6602D in the Silverton Conference Room, 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Saturday, August 3rd at 9 in the morning, we have a Santiam Canyon Youth Benefit Golf Tournament located at the Mallard Creek Golf Course, 31966 Bellinger Scale Road in Lebanon. On August 5th, that's Monday at 8:30 in the morning, we have calendar review. Sorry,
Willamette.
Lebanon. I'm just moving. We have
okay. It's
calendar here in the Silverton Conference Room, located in the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On Monday, August 5th at 9 a.m., we have management update located at the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. And then Monday, August 5th at 11 a.m., we have a Board of Commissioners Chief Administrative Officer meeting with an executive session if needed pursuant to ORS 192.660 to begin immediately following management update located in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor of this building. Oh, it keeps going. And then on Tuesday, August 6th at 5 in the evening, we have a Marion County Housing Authority's National Night Out event located at Wood Park Terrace, 1025 Park Avenue in Woodburn. On Wednesday, August 7th at 9 in the morning, we have board session located in this room. On Wednesday, August 7th at 12 in the afternoon, we have a Woodburn Marion County meeting at Luis's Taqueria, 523 Front Street in Woodburn. And on Wednesday, August 8th at 5:30 in the evening, August 7th at 5:30 in the evening, we have a Marion County Fair Board meeting located in the Commissioner's Boardroom on the 5th floor of this building, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. It's quite a calendar.
It's supposed to not be busy now.
These are the slow times, huh?
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you've asked me what I'm thinking of this morning.
What are you thinking of this morning, Commissioner?
Well, I listened into a radio program yesterday. A little upsetting.
Yeah?
Our good.
What, was it yesterday or? Oh,
2 days ago.
Was it?
I listened to a recording yesterday just so I could catch up. A couple of things at point.
Oh no, here it comes.
Commissioner Welsh, you might want to know. I asked him to say something nice about me, just as an aside. It was pretty weak, but what I'm really,
right.
I did.
What I'm really upset about, he couldn't remember
place.
the bridge in Scotts Mills.
I find.
What does that mean? Have I not been serious enough? Do I have to pick up my efforts to get your attention?
I knew I would get your hair up.
That was
I signed that one in the wrong place.
So when we do the groundbreaking, I'm not going to invite you.
Good.
You don't care about it.
I don't.
Hey,
wait a minute. I did bring up the bridge. I just couldn't remember. I can't remember where it is. There's some bridge that he cares about, but I don't know where it is. I can't remember the name of the place.
You could have said just about anything, and it would have made him less mad.
I knew if he was listening, that would just get him.
And then you had the commentator even ask, what does that Commissioner Brentano do? Anything? God, I got to send him a list.
Hey,
wow.
I defended you.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's because you were all upset.
Well, it is true that Commissioner Brentano doesn't spend much time talking about that.
I talked
bridge
about
in Scotts
MWAC,
Mills.
Transportation, Public Works. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, it was good. It goes by fast.
I forgot about that. I forgot you were talking to the public.
Yeah.
I got in there and I said, "Hey, Brent," I said, "make sure somewhere you got to work something in here about Sam because I told him I would say some good things about him."
Yeah, it was a little weak. That's all I can say.
Maybe we'll get another shot at it.
Oh, I will.
And otherwise, not too.
He asked me about you too. You should go back and listen to the tape.
He asked you about me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez. There can be nothing good there.
Yeah, notice Sam's not talking about what I said. He's just laughing about it.
Find out on his own.
He's just chuckling to himself. Huh?
The new guy.
See, that's what happens.
New guy.
I got.
How's the new guy doing?
I gotta, pay attention to everything around here. If you're not careful, the chair gets on the radio and starts talking about you. I'd say it was behind my back, but that's not really true because it was in public on the radio.
It's public comment. It wasn't noticed.
I do have one that I want to start getting out locally, and it's still undetermined. But if you saw an email from Barb from our lobbyists and the new federal Transportation Act they're discussing. Did you see it? What came a couple days ago? If you would look at it, there's one section in there that talked about 50 to 60% of local major projects being funded by the federal government, way in excess of normal. I think it's normally a quarter.
Oh.
And they specifically listed at projects like the third bridge. In other words, if we had this sitting there ready to go,
They want to jump on stuff like that.
and that opportunity is going to go by. So these people that killed that need to pay the price. That's all there is to it. So no more Mr. Nice Guy.
What about our bridge up at Wheatland Ferry that we've been talking about?
I did write something and said, I looked into that pretty hard. There's no great way across right now. Not without going, in fact, I can just about think of what I wrote. 3 different routes, all kind of coming off the Brook Lake area, but they all imply about 6-7 miles of crossing farmland, and even where like the Wheatland Road, then it's kind of a wind to get down there, and additional right-of-way needed. I think it'd be disrupting of the farm operations and farms, and we'd literally do just what we've had done to us in Donald, and overwhelm the rural community system, and I can't buy off on it. I came back to, we still need to get as planned, and when I see these funding opportunities, just reinforces that was where it should go, and we could have paid for it.
Could have made that happen.
But we're not going to be driving cars in 20 years, and 30,000 people won't put any new impacts on our transportation system as they move in. It'll all be good. Because remember, 3.5% today ride bikes, and they're going to raise it to 5%. So that'll take care of every transportation issue you could ever come up with.
They're going to raise 5% has to go to bike lanes?
Oh, they're hoping if they have it all built out that 5% of the commuting public will ride their bikes. Of course, the other 95% you're on your own. I still have a horse, and I found out just yesterday that you can still ride it. The fracture wasn't some...
Do you still have a horse?
Well, my daughter, but in a pinch I'd take it.
Your daughter, wow.
So now you know.
I'm
Otherwise,
impressed.
I don't care about hardly anything.
I didn't know you were a cowboy.
Oh, sure.
I suppose you did grow up in St. Paul.
I did.
It's just in your blood, huh?
We used to have little rodeos in our corral, which was fun. Bricks and rocks in the middle of it. Sometimes you didn't fall right on them.
Did I tell you I took my girls to the Marion County Rodeo?
At the fair?
At the fair.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. And they loved it, first of all, but, beginning there's the bronc riding, and the fellas are doing that. And they just thought it was hilarious that they kept falling off the horses.
Oh.
And they kept being like, those guys can't stay on the horses.
Yeah, what's their problem?
They don't know how to ride horses. And then the gals came out and they were doing the barrel riding,
look
right?
at them ride.
And Anya leaned over to me and she goes, those girls are better than the boys.
Well,
they don't fall off the horses. No. And I had to agree with her.
All right, you better wind
Well,
this up.
let's see.
You're
What
hiding
else?
something? I've criticized you.
I got my weekly full of my weekly
Criticism?
Yeah, so I'm good. I wouldn't feel loved if I wasn't criticized today.
I saw you pulling up that email and reading the public criticism you're getting via email during board session.
Well, and then I also sent Barb that email on the federal agenda on the Medicaid to see if we can make sure we get that with our guys, see where they're at back east on that.
On the jail.
Yeah, I sent that to her
I
while we
did
were sitting
comment
here.
about you being perfect this morning, and you must have thought you were pretty close, didn't you?
You know what?
And I'll tell you why. You only missed Salem. But I got to thinking about it. I didn't bring it up at the time, but now you're asking.
Oh, when I said 555 Court Street, I didn't say Salem,
I
Oregon.
can't think of any other court streets in Marion County, so probably it's just obvious that it's Salem. We can look
But there's a
at
lot
mine.
of other Marion counties, so I should probably say Salem, Oregon, because
For
you
example.
might think that we are in Marion County, Florida, or
I've looked it up to
Marion
see,
County somewhere else. All right, we're going to adjourn before this
It's
deteriorates.
only going to
any
get
further.
worse.